What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to show you how to change out the transmission fluid and filter in a 6.7 Powerstroke diesel. Alright, so stay tuned because it's going to be pretty easy to do. All you're going to need is some Mercon and a filter. Stay tuned. Alright, we back. So we're underneath the truck right now. So when you get down here, this is obviously transmission pan. You're going to have your drain plug right here. It's a 13 millimeter, and then you're going to have these 8 millimeter bolts that go around the perimeter. When you drain it, just get yourself one of these clear Tupperware totes, whatever you want to call them. Makes it a lot easier to do your transmission drain. Gives you a little bit bigger bucket to catch your fluid in. I'm obviously working on my back underneath the truck in some lovely gravel. So what we're gonna have to do, pop this off, let it drain. Once it drains, we're gonna start taking out all these screws. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take these out. We'll probably leave this one in to hold it, and then what we'll do is we'll leave 2 of these back here to hold it, just to keep the pan up so it doesn't fall while we're taking the other ones out. And then we'll go ahead and remove all the other ones. And then when we're ready to drop the pan, we'll remove this one right here, and then support the pan, and then we'll remove probably these 2 back bolts. And then what we're going to end up doing is kind of tilting the pan down and then sliding it backwards or towards the front of the vehicle a little bit. And then you're going to want the fluid to kind of drain from here into your bucket. You know, it's going to make a little bit of mess. It's going to pour down here on the frame rail or your cross member, but yeah, it's not too bad. So we'll be right back. Alright, so I just got done pulling the drain plug out of there. So we're going to go ahead and let this run until it stops, and then we'll put the drain plug back in. As you can see, this fluid is still red. It's probably got, I don't know, almost 60,000 miles, I would say, on this fluid. Last time I did it, I was pretty close to like 60,000 miles, and I'm a little over 116,000 now. So we're getting pretty close to needing a change. But as you can tell, this is still nice and red. Got it flowing over here into my catch can. You're gonna probably drain out anywhere from like 8 to 9, maybe 10 quarts of transmission fluid. Kind of depends on your setup and how much fluid you guys have inside of your transmission, if it was low or whatever when it was last serviced. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and let this drain, and then we'll be back. All right, so it's just about done draining. I'm going around right now, and I'm just taking out these 8 millimeter screws. They're not in there super tight. You don't need an impact gun or anything. I'm actually just using a basic drill for this, but they just come right out like so. You know, try not to drop it in your transmission fluid. But yeah, you'll just go around taking them out. See, I left that bolt in there just to hold it up. You know, I'm sorry if there's some wind noise. It's pretty windy out here. But yeah, I'm just working around the pan, and then of course I'm gonna leave those 2 in there until I'm ready to drop it. Then I'm gonna throw the drain plug back in here, and then we're gonna go ahead and drop this pan, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like once we got this pan dropped. Okay, so we got the pan off of there. So this gasket, this is a reusable gasket that they put on here. So make sure you don't damage this, don't kink it, don't bend it. Make sure you keep it flat in the same orientation that it came off. And then as you can see down here, there's your magnet. It's got some metal on it, but that's not too bad. The truck's got 116,000 miles on it. It does tow. So yeah, so we'll go climb back under the truck and show you what we're working with here. So once you got the pan off, this is what it's gonna look like. You got your solenoids right there. So if you ever have to replace them, you know what you gotta do. You have to take that pan off, and then here's where you get to your shift solenoids there. So if you guys are having those issues where your transmission's shifting hard, or acting a little funny, it might be one of those shift solenoids. So right there, that's the pan that we gotta, or the filter, excuse me, that we gotta take off. There's 3 8mm bolts. There's one there, there's one right there, and then there's one on the other side that you can't see from this angle. As you can see right there in the corner of the filter, it is a little dirty. It's got some fine metal shaving particles on it, which, you know, that's normal to be expected with a transmission with some miles on it. But yeah, next thing we're gonna do is take this filter off, get the new one on, and then get the pan back on, get everything buttoned back up. Alright guys, so when you get ready to drop this filter, you might want to make sure that you're out of the way, you don't have your head under here, because there's going to be a bunch of fluid that does pour out of here. So make sure you got your bucket under here ready to catch it. It's going to be about 2 seconds of fluid that's just going to drop out, and then it's just going to slowly drip like it's doing right here. But just make sure your head's out of the way, or you're going to get some transmission fluid on your face. Alright, so now we're ready to install the new filter. Right here, this is your part number for it. I'll make sure I put a link in the description to where you can get it on Amazon. It seems to be a pretty cheap place to find these. You get them within a day or two. And then same thing, pretty sure I ordered this one on Amazon as well, Mercon 55. But I'll also make sure that I give you guys a link on Amazon. That way you can get this. This case is a case of 12. So more than enough to do the transmission. Might even be able to service the transfer case too while we're at it. Okay, so we're back underneath the truck. Right here, got the new filter. It's ready to go in place of the old one. Right here you can see the hole where it's got to go inside of. So it's just gonna slide right in. Well, let me move this out of the way. So what you're gonna do is it's gonna slide in here, and then there's one of the holes, there's the other one, and then right here is where your other hole is for your screws. When you go to put your screws back in, 2 of them are gonna be short and 1 of them is gonna be longer. So as you can see right here, the longer one's over here on the left side. The longer one is actually going to go right here in the front, and then the 2 short ones go on the sides. So make sure you don't get them mixed up, okay? Otherwise you're going to be taking them out and removing them and putting them in the right place, and that's just a waste of time. So just make sure you do that. Okay, so when you guys go to tighten those screws back up, make sure you don't over tighten them. They're not on there very tight. Just hit them with your screw gun. But you're not trying to impact these things on here, so you're just gonna zip them in like that, and then you're gonna go around, do that to the other 3, and then they'll be good to go. Same thing with the oil pan. When you go to install the oil pan, they're not super tight. Just zip them down. When you go to put the oil pan on, make sure you start from the middle on the bolts, and you tighten from the middle, and you always work your way out. It's the same thing with heads or valve covers. You want to make sure that when you're cinching these down, you're allowing the valve cover to lay down flat and work its way out. If you start on the outside over, if you start out here and then work your way towards the middle, all you're going to end up doing is you're going to create a bow or a crease and you're going to get a leak, okay? So make sure you always start from the center and then work your way out to both sides, alternating on each side of the pan, kind of crisscrossing back and forth. That way you get a nice good even seal. All right, so we got the pan all cleaned up. Took a rag, wiped it out of, thoroughly, got all the metal shavings, any of that residue that was inside of there. I also took this off, cleaned this area right here, make sure that it was all nice and clean, shiny, ready for reinstallation. Make sure you pull your magnet out, clean that off really well. Took a rag, couple of them actually, and just wiped them, over the magnet several times to get all the metal particles off of there. But make sure that you put this back in and you don't forget about it, because this is the only thing that's catching all the metal that's floating around in your transmission fluid. So anything that could potentially get past the filter, you want to have that magnet there to catch it. All right, it's kind of a secondary defense for your transmission to save it. So we'll go ahead, fast forward to installing the pan, and then we'll start adding the transmission fluid, and then we should be done. Okay, transmission pan's back in. All the screws are torqued down. Drain plugged back in. Cleaned it all off, wiped off all the transmission fluid that was, all over the pan. I missed a spot. I have to come back over there and get that real quick. Don't wanna forget anything. So you just wipe this down and we are good to go. We'll head up to the engine bay and then we'll start putting in our transmission fluid. Okay, so now that you got the pan installed, drained, you're ready to add your transmission fluid. So right here is where your dipstick goes for your transmission fluid. You got it right there. As you can see, this is almost flat, so getting fluid in there is going to be a challenge. I'm just going to go and take this funnel right here, put it at an angle, and just slowly pour 8 quarts of transmission fluid in, and then I'm going to check the level and then go from there and just add a little bit more each time. You don't want to overfill the transmission, otherwise you will cause damage to the transmission, but you also want to make sure that it's not underfilled, because then you'll also have shifting issues. The other thing, guys, keep your engine bay clean. I mean, this truck's got 116,000 miles on it, okay? And it still almost looks brand new under here, okay? Take pride in your stuff. Alright, so not sure if you guys can hear me, but when you're checking your level, make sure you guys are checking it with the engine running, not with it off. Make sure it's in park. What you want to do is add 8 quarts of transmission fluid to start if you're just doing a drain and fill. Go drive it around, get it up to operating temperature. And then, once you got it up to operating temperature, you're going to check it and make sure it's within the hot range. You don't want to be below that, and you don't want to be over that. Add fluid as necessary, and then that's it. That's all you guys have to do. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more how-to videos, that way you don't miss anything in the future. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Alright, so we're just going to take it for a little test drive, getting the transmission warmed up, making sure that everything's shifting good like it's supposed to. any issues. Yep, everything's good.